Hello, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'm a little bit late. I Time got away from me, and I had in my head that the premiere was a little bit later, and so it just happened. So who's with us? We have any of our usual suspects here this evening? Hello, Brianna. Thank you for joining us again. Glad to see you here. Uh, what do you think of the recovery story? We don't have as many recovery stories, and I think they're incredibly important, especially because of the other topics that we address. And oftentimes in the comments, we hear from people that are in recovery or people who wish they were in recovery, or people who have family members they wish were in recovery. And so I feel like the recovery stories are really vital, and I'm really glad we have that as part of our channel. Karma. Oh, Karma, you're such a charmer. Holy cow. Good to see you. It has been a little while since we've seen you here, right? Like the story, didn't catch the whole thing. It is a cool story. There's something quite different. Good job, Andrew. I am still in recovery. That's great. How long have you been in recovery? Kimberly, welcome. Welcome again. Good to see you here. Appreciate you being here. Andrew, I feel like you're a new name in the group. That we have some usual suspects that we see, like Kimberly and Brianna and Karma, though we haven't seen Karma in a little while. But glad you're here. Kimberly says, I've watched the story and I really appreciate it. Well, thank you. Andrew, 10 years in recovery. Good job. How's it been? Is it a lot of people in recovery tell me that there is this level of discovery that happens after recovery that they feel like makes your life better and makes it better than it was before the addiction began. And I think that's interesting that what I'm getting out of that is that there is something to the life experience that is better because they have that experience behind them. You've also experienced marijuana psychosis. So, so was that while you were in addiction to whatever you were in addiction to? That's awesome. If Brenda shows up, Brenda will love hearing about your story as well, Andrew. That uh, Brenda is quite the champion and quite the cheerleader. Karma says, my move to California to help my mom who had dementia. She ended up in long term care. I ended up homeless and currently living in my car. Luckily, I have a gym membership and storage, and work has a place to do laundry, a fridge, and a microwave. Well, Carla, we had no idea. Dr. Joy. Okay. Okay, Dr. Joy. Uh, are you in College Station? Do I know you? Andrew says, I started using drugs when I was 16. I'm 35 now, doing better than I've been doing in a very long time. Well, how cool is that? And I think there's something about doing better that that tastes a little sweeter after going through all of that. Karma says, I'm moving back to Arizona at the end of this month. We're going to be in Arizona. We're going to be shooting stories somewhere in Arizona later on this year. Maybe I can have a look at the calendar and see when that is scheduled. It's in September 26th, 27th, and 28th, as it is right now. So watch out for it, and we'll see if it comes to pass. It's anybody's guess, really. I owe it all to God. I hear that a lot too. So, Dr. Joy, uh, I'll be there. Okay. If you're on Facebook, you should be part of our Facebook group. If you're not, Andrew, I feel you because I was using age of 16 and I'm 60. So, Dr. Joy, I'm just curious. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. You can share what you want with the group, and the rest is and that's all totally up to you. I'm just wondering if we've met. That's all because I know a Dr. Joy A, and it's a, her, part of why her name is memorable because it sounds like the name of a drug dealer, Dr. Joy. Doesn't that kind of have that drug dealer? Okay, well, anyway. Karma, you have a PhD and you're homeless. Have we met is a good pickup. You think? I can't imagine that not coming across as as just BS. Have we met? Karma. So what's up with this THC psychosis? I've never heard of this. Well, a few months ago, I had never heard of it either. And we heard from some people who had had issues with it and started learning more about it. And it seemed like it could be something that would be worth developing a series on as we work on our other series. And so we started doing that. Pretty much that simple. There's a lot of there's a mix of mixed information of good and bad information out there about cannabis, and we are sorting our way through it. It is an adventure for sure to be dealing with Uh, well, some of the comments that the cannabis series draws are, well, they're kind of entertaining. Some people that are cannabis defenders really kind of, I don't know, the way they argue in defense of cannabis really makes a better case for it being illegal, it seems to me. Their comments are kind of, not all, certainly not all, but there is a, a substantial amount of comments that are very passionate but light on facts. There's quite a few commenters who consider themselves to be experts on weed because they've been using it for a long time. And holy cow, it doesn't work that way for anything. You know, I've been using a car for a long time, but I'm no expert on cars. I can tell time, but I'm no expert on watches. So it's a little peculiar to me. And Karma, I know some of you that are in the group that have been with us on these live events before have already heard this, but Karma, comments defending cannabis tend to be much more likely to contain misspelled words. It's to the point where I expect it when I see the comment, and I notice this in the fentanyl series too. A lot of times, parents of victims of fentanyl will say something in their story about, well, it started with weed. And cannabis defenders immediately say, don't go blaming the weed. And those comments too would have would be much more likely to have misspelled words or problems with the sentence structure. And I don't mean predictive text or speech to text kind of issues. Those are easy to recognize and understandable. And THC is the active ingredient in pot, basically. So, what was I saying? So, way more likely to have misspelled words. I would guess about 5 times more likely. They don't all contain misspelled. Not close, but it's way more likely to happen from cannabis defending people than from any other kind of comment. It enough for it to be predictable. Yeah, there's no telling. There's no telling about D's nuts or anybody else. So, karma, I didn't say you were high. So, my PhD is in health and human performance. I used to smoke a lot of pot in California, then stopped, moved to Arizona, and a former nurse who battled cancer re-educated me about pot. Well, cool. Maybe we should talk to her. Andrew says, I've seen my friend go through weed psychosis. I feel like I've missed a message or two. Clearly not one from Dr. Joy, but that's okay. No pressure. So, Andrew says, I will tell anyone in this chat, can I link you a video? It's a guy giving his experience with his psychosis. You can paste the link in the chat if you want. I'm not sure if that works. It may be that only the whatever I am, the host or moderate, I don't know. Uh, so we have one of the stories in our cannabis induced psychosis series is a woman, also a PhD, who shares her story of experiencing cannabis induced psychosis. And she's kind of famous. Her name is Bryn Spector. Spetcher, oddly spelled name, but she was a wonderful person to talk to, very interesting to interview and to learn about, an extremely tragic tragic story. So uh, I'll be honest, I couldn't watch the premiere with the domestic violence survivor. It was really triggering, but I did watch her trailer. There we have two. Only one had a trailer though. That was Gina Dobson, and Gina is she's a pretty amazing person. It's a two-part story. The first part is about enduring the domestic violence, about being in it, and about her getting out of it. It's called The Escape. And that one is over 50 minutes long. And so if there's a risk for triggers to be in there, it's probably going to pull the trigger a couple of times. The second part is called Conviction. And that part talks about what happened after she got out. It involves court and a fictional accusation by her ex as a as revenge, as a vendetta. He just so Kimberly, I wish I never started smoking pot at the age of 16 years old. If my sister didn't introduce it to me, introduce me to it on back of her motorcycle. You mean like while driving down the road, and she just, here you go, handed it back to you? I mean, that sounds extra dangerous. So Glenn, when I saw your THC series, it made me wonder if the pot was laced with something, considering all your fentanyl stories. Yeah, yeah, we hear that a lot. We hear about thank you. We hear about uh, we hear about how people believe that may be possible for uh, for the pot to be laced with something else. But we've shot quite a few of these interviews now, over 20. Several of the interviews have been with physicians. Uh, I feel like someone would have said so if there was any evidence that there was, uh, if there was some sort of, oh, thank you. Sorry, sorry. It's uh, the boss just left some stuff here. So I the thing with THC is that now the potency is off the charts compared to where it was 20, 30 years ago. That 4%, 5%, that used to be a typical or high concentration of THC in uh, in 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 marijuana in gummies or whatever. And so I it's so strong, especially in stuff like vapes. There's some vapes that are 90% THC or higher. It is not. As one person said, it's not Woodstock weed anymore. It's it's a whole different animal. So that's what I'm learning about that. Huh. I have dinner here. You folks probably don't care about that, but right in front of our my mother's house, she showed it. She showed. Okay, the sentence confused me there. All right, but anyway. So what else? Have I missed anything? Is there any? If someone asked a question that I haven't uh, that I haven't responded to, please repeat the question. I missed it because I was responding to something else. I don't deliberately ignore comments or questions. I can't stand the smell of darn pot, Glenn. Kimberly says. Well, when I smell it, to me it smells like high school. You know, like the high school boys' room or the parking lot outside of the high school right after school. And that was a long time ago. Karma says, I know we spoke about this before, and with all the YouTube restrictions, have you thought about episodes about mental health, depression, anxiety? Yeah, in some of our stories, some of the in fact some of the cannabis induced psychosis stories, there is an underlying element of mental health. And in some of our stories about fentanyl poisoning, and even in some of our stories about recovery, there is underlying mental health references. And so we're certainly open to that. I we have we have quite a few topics now that we get into, and we're always open to developing new ones. Mental health is one that we have talked about, and we're certainly open to. But uh, who do we talk to? Where do we talk to family members? One of the things that we're running into with the cannabis induced psychosis stories is that uh, the storytellers, if they're parents, they tend to want to protect their child, and so they don't want to identify the child by name, and they don't want to use their last names, and they're extra cautious, and so sometimes that kind of that has the risk of coming across as being less credible coming across as hiding something, which leads some viewers to think, well, are they leaving something out? And what about a suicide series? Ah, yes. That's the only thing YouTube will have a bigger problem with is that word, suicide. If I were to say it a few more times, I think by this time tomorrow, this recorded broadcast will have a restriction on it. We'll see. We we'll we'll see what happens. We do have a couple of stories on our channel. There's one story, Jaslyn's story, which is about that, and it doesn't get a lot of exposure, and the reason it doesn't get a lot of exposure is because of the restrictions. So because of the restrictions, fewer people see it. It's kind of frustrating. I think maybe we should call this dinner with Glenn. I have this wonderful thing here that my wife made, and I gotta eat a little bit. So, so, oh yeah. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Whatever happened to the man on the bridge update? Holy cow. Maybe I should ask. I know that at some point the man on the bridge was going to be in Houston and try to get together with the officer. Well, thank you for watching, Kimberly. All of the series are still active, and so I'll just ask about the man on the bridge right now. Just let me. I'm just going to ask, and we'll see how close that is. Yes, the man on the bridge. It's in our series called American Peace Officer. It is an awesome story. I remember the officer is my friend, and I remember when it happened. I guess about 9 years ago now. I remember when he told me about it, and we started talking about making some sort of story about it. Then I'm getting a link. There it is. So here's the link to the man on the bridge. Okay. So there it is. You can right click on it and do open in a new window and just have it sitting there until you're ready for it if you're on a computer. Otherwise, You can just go to our channel and look in the playlists for and look in the American Peace Officer playlist, and it ought to be the one on top. Or sorry, I just need to have a little bit of that. Is our storyteller here in the house? It's a pizza type thing on a tortilla with pepperonis and jalapenos and you know cheese and sauce. So Memphis is going to get a wake up call from my storyteller. What does that mean? I am curious. So, oh yeah, the message to huh. I have so much going on. Oh yeah, so reminder that we are going to be in Florida in a couple of weeks. Hmm. So we have a couple of ongoing investigations, and I'm getting new information on one of them. Sorry, it's kind of captivating. What happened to the last fentanyl story? It's not appearing on the site. Which one? What was it? James Presley Martin? Brianna asks, "Do I ever indulge in alcoholic beverages?" A little bit. Not kind of really a social drinker. If we're having dinner at a nice restaurant, I'm there's a fair possibility that I'll order a drink unless I'm having dinner with someone who's in recovery, and and then no, uh, but not frequent and not to excess. So yeah, I see it. Maybe what you're seeing or not seeing. Maybe you're not seeing the story because you've already watched it, and YouTube sorts of things differently if you to have things you haven't seen closer to the top. Maybe I don't know. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us from work, Karma. That's cool. Good job. You know, as long as it doesn't get you into trouble at work, that wouldn't be pleasant. So it could be it's being filtered. Yeah. So this is just coffee, not the usual mug. I know. So for the other people in the group, is there any questions, anything you guys would like to ask about our series, about any of the series, about Texas pictures? You have ideas for a series or a place where maybe we should do. Uh, Karma, your being here is a donation too, and we don't see we don't see many donations. Once in a while, someone will gift something, or they'll do the super thanks thing on YouTube. But being here, watching, that helps. What makes all these series sustainable is viewers, is you guys, you know, and a whole bunch of others. But I know you do, Karma, and but that's not why we want you here. See, ta-da! See, there's it's and thank you very much. I'm always very grateful. Well, well, thank you, Karma. I don't know what I don't know what else to say. So does anyone have questions for us? So I have an update about the man on the bridge. He is still in the military. and he just re-enlisted. So it sounds like he's really finding his way, and that's awesome. How do you keep your youthful look about you? Well, right now I'm eating this pizza my wife made, so maybe that's it. So here's a cool thing that's coming up. August 8th is an anniversary for me, a professional anniversary. I started work in video production professionally where I could say I'm an actual real professional on August 8th, 1988. It's a long time ago. But very very glad to see you here, Brad. That's cool. We gonna see Carla joining us as well. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kimberly. I appreciate that. I'm sorry for eating while we do this. Really good, and it's all my wife's doing. So, have many of you been watching any of the cannabis series? I would love to hear more feedback about that because we do hear from a lot of people who say it is propaganda, that it's a myth. Cauliflower crust. No, it's the crust is a flour tortilla, and it's got jalapenos and pepperoni and cheese and sauce, and so that's what I'm eating, Kimberly. Carmen says, Glenn, do you find that you get more views during certain times when people are off work or weekends? Yeah, we've kind of settled into making most of our premieres happen in the evening. That tends to work out better. But we have done some experimenting with earlier premieres and then just kind of lose track of it. And I missed I missed the premiere today. I mean, I'd already seen it, but I missed the premiere because I had the time wrong in my head, and so I missed the big move from the premiere to this live event, and I was I don't know, a few minutes late, and I think that disrupted things tonight. So Kimberly, what's your takeaways with the pot series? Have you seen many of them? A couple of them. There's not really that many, but I don't know, 7 or 8 now. I can have a look that as the cannabis series is it's part of what makes it fascinating. Okay, there's 11 stories, or there's 11 videos in the Cannabis series right now. And a couple of those videos are like trailers and stuff. So, yeah, there's a couple of trailers. There's 11 stories so far. No, there hasn't been any Heather. There hasn't been any uh, clear evidence that I've heard about why some people get psychosis from cannabis and most don't. Nothing, but it seems like, as we're learning as we go, just like with the fentanyl series, and just like journalists do with any topic, they start diving into it and learning about it as they go. And so what I do here is, from some people to say, no, that doesn't happen. Maybe you get a bad batch now and then, and it uh oh jeez. I'm sorry. So maybe you get a bad batch now and then. They'll say, uh no, I've had a couple of panic attacks, felt a little, and felt a little paranoid. That's a big one. And it seems like what some users might label as a panic attack is what professionals might label as a mild psychosis. Look who's here. Carla's here. Awesome. As a scientist and a researcher, I have to ask about the person's mental state and if they were mixing it with any other drugs. Lots of questions. I personally believe cannabis does not induce psychosis. Yeah, there's people out there who don't believe that. And part of the issue that a lot of people are pointing out, the physicians that we've interviewed that are in the series, is that the concentration of THC is is dramatically higher now than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's higher in edibles and like gummies or cookies, and it's much higher in vapes. And so I think that uh, we have a lot more to add to the series, Heather. We've shot a lot more interviews. We're just working our way through them as we can. There is some of the, so the thing that most of the people we interview talk about is how the dose has gotten so much higher that there is a real uh, there's a real unknown in people regularly ingesting. You're killing me, Carla. Uh, there's a real unknown with people ingesting this volume of THC in a short period of time or for a prolonged length of time, like a year or two or three. And so there's inconclusive research, I believe, but it is sorry that happened. It's strange. The idea that something with that you can't judge today's THC by experiences of the past. You can't judge today's THC based on what you learned in high school 20 years ago or 10 years ago, even. It's different. It is much higher, much more potent, less CBD. And so you should just, you need to be careful. That you need to be smart about it. Mm. What is psychosis? I'm just going to, sorry. So I think I would rather use a formal definition. Psychosis is a severe mental condition in which thought and emotions are so affected that contact is lost with external reality. Psychosis may occur as a result of psychiatric illness like schizophrenia. In other instances, it may be caused by health conditions, medications, or drug use. Possible symptoms include delusions, hallucinations, talking incoherently, and agitation. The person with the condition usually isn't aware of his or her behavior. So there it is. When this cannabis psychosis stuff became wide known was when a young woman stabbed her boyfriend 112 times. I personally believe she was full of crap. If you're talking about Bryn Spetcher, the medical examiner said 108 times, and I've met her, and she's a cool person. She has, the interview with her probably lasted 45, 50 minutes. I spent other time throughout the day talking with her. She stayed. She was interacting with other people who were sharing stories about cannabis induced psychosis. And there's there's flags that jump out to me and jump out to most people. When someone's not being truthful, there's always something that is a little bit evasive. And I never saw anything that gave me a flag like that. My wife didn't either. Uh, and uh, and she seems very sincere. That was my experience with her one on one. And so, a couple of things. The medical examiner, it the report the report doesn't say stabbed 108 times. It says there's 108 wounds. And the reason why that's different is because the knife involved was was a serrated knife. And so one one glance of a serrated knife can leave 6 or 8 wounds. And I believe it's been a while, but I believe all of that was discussed during the court case. But saying 108 stab wounds is saying she stabbed him 108 times. That is uh, way more sensational than saying he had 108 lacerations. She also stabbed herself. It doesn't seem realistic to me to think that someone could stab another person 108 times just just because of the physical demands and the time demands it would take to do that. If you had I'm just the action 108 times. Can you imagine doing that to some inanimate object? Uh, Maybe like a large fruit, like a watermelon or something. Just 108 times, just over and over and over. Imagine the physical demands that would be. And after that, she started stabbing herself. She had a lot of neck wounds. In the picture we used in the story, the mug shot right up front, it's a later mug shot, and some of the wounds had started to heal, so they don't look as severe. Wow. There's probably another one coming. Yeah, see, I was pretty sure. So I've been wanting a coffee cup from. Yeah, okay, Carla, they're there. They are on our website. There is a link that'll take you to a store where you can order another coffee cup. Mm. Yeah, that is no. See, I don't have a. Uh, we'll be right back after this kind of commercial in the queue here where I can just pop out for a moment, like the guys on the networks do. Uh, maybe one day. So on our website, texas-pictures.com, there's a link to our store where there's t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. Sweat t-shirts, Here, see, t-shirt. So anyway, when this whole cannabis, oh, okay, yeah, we did that one. Reason I was asked, reason why I've asked, because my mental health clinic has put that on my paperwork. Another thing about cannabis that's a thing, cannabis induced psychosis is a genuine thing. It is a legitimate medical term. And one of the physicians that we talked to is an emergency room physician, and she said that she sees it every day. Every day. And so some of it could certainly involve other drugs as well, but she sees it every day. So, but another it's a syndrome. It's called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Hyperemesis means, you guys know what emesis is? Great thing to talk about while I'm eating. Uh, Hyperemesis, it's vomiting. And so hyperemesis is vomiting a lot. Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, it can creep up on people and it can last for a long time. A few days, a few months, longer. And the treatment for it is stop using. Stop using THC. That's what fixes it. So that's a thing. Weird, different mug for sure. I want to just put this over here and we'll switch back to the fancy Texas pictures mug. The one that Carla was asking about. No, don't tell us. Sorry, I already did. But uh, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. I know someone who had that as a problem. He was skin and bones, and it was a brutal thing to endure. And so I've seen it myself. Boss was walking by. So Heather says, I'm very interested in this subject and concerned about anyone who is trying it for the first time. Criminal behavior is not something I was worried about. I believe everyone in the interviews. I do too. I believe everyone in the interviews. I'm sitting there talking to them. Maybe the way to say it for me is I believe everyone in all of the interviews that have been published. Epi, epigenetics, epigenetics. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Is that something that connects an epidemic to genetic factors? Kimberly says, I've been clean for 28 years and I'm glad that God removed the taste. That is awesome. 28 years. You're 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 there. It's it's still a thing, but you get to wake up every morning with this huge thing to be grateful about. And that's giant. That is so awesome to look at that and have that amazing accomplishment to 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 remind you about the importance, the value of you. That's cool. So Karma, back to the epigenetics question. Were you going somewhere with that? You got me curious now. I get to teach my son about pot back in the day and now, which is way different. One of the physicians that we interviewed said, he's the one who said, it's not Woodstock weed. And I thought that was a great term. Someone with a mental health epigenetics, someone with a mental health issue, whether genetic or formed, would be triggered by an episode that causes them to exhibit those behaviors. Hmm. Okay. So that sounds reasonable. So are you saying that cannabis triggers something that's already there in a kind of a dormant state? Now that's one of the things that we hear from cannabis defenders a lot. That that is one of our commenters recently said, if you're not, I can't remember how they said it, but it had basically what it said was, if you're not 100% free of mental issues, you shouldn't use THC. How do you know you're 100% free of mental issues? It could be that no one is 100% free of mental issues. I think that this argument, this point you're making, Karma, is it could certainly be completely valid, but it is a common comment that we see on our channel on the cannabis stories. And the comment tends to come from people who are defending cannabis. And how do you know? That's the thing that stands out to me, that it, it's not that relevant because you can't know your well, we all got something. There's something that'll set us off. The ones who seem like they are 100% free of mental issues. They just haven't found theirs yet. Doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean it's not dormant. But it also doesn't mean that's where the psychosis comes from. Bryn Spetcher, the woman we were talking about earlier, she has a PhD. She is an audiologist that you address her as doctor in a professional setting. She's a sharp person. Uh, what about if you smoke pot and pop codeine pills? Yeah, you shouldn't do both of those for sure. Shouldn't pop codeine pills for sure. Not going down the road about smoking pot or not. Uh, don't care. I think probably it just has to be legal because I'm so tired of hearing the arguments for why it needs to be legal. And I just there's so many things in the world that are important. This is not it. Being able to smoke weed, if that's important to you, where the hell are your priorities? So Karma says, so I'm sorry, Kimberly. It seems like a bad thing for your sister to be doing. It's masking something. All right, so Karma says, Glenn, have you seen the side effects of most mental health meds? Cannabis is a less concern. I'm not advocating for it, but as a medical professional, it's a lot safer than most medications, even Advil. Well, I've talked to physicians who say that's not true. It doesn't mean they're right. I'm just saying that's what they've told me about that. One of the things that they point out is that it doesn't, it provides short term relief that leads to long term problems. I've heard that from 3 physicians. And they've been very consistent about it. 2 of them were in Colorado, one of them was in Houston. They may know each other. I don't know. No, okay, 4 physicians. Sorry. And the other one, I forget where he's from. I just spoke with him on the phone. So I'm not. I don't have a lot of confidence in medications for mental illness. That there's a lot of experimenting involved, and doctors tend to be really transparent about saying other people have had good luck with this, but we don't know until we try it. And they're transparent about that. And with whatever kind of medication they're talking about, even if it's THC. they don't know what they're talking about. So that that may be, but there's been four of them, and they've been 100% consistent with each other, and they don't all know each other. They're from different parts of the country. And another way for me to say that would be to say, instead of saying there's four of them, I could also say all of the physicians I've talked to have given consistent answers about that. So that's that's my experience. So Karma is asking about kratom. I hear about it a little bit. I know people use it as a uh, as like an addiction replacement therapy. It's legal. It's legal, and there are laws trying to be passed to regulate it. Well, a couple of reasons for that. Could be that there is something dangerous about it. Could be it's just because there's money in it. Kimberly said, when I was 29 years old and had my son Troy with me, and he begged her to stop. It's legal, and there are laws trying to, yeah. So I do enjoy, I enjoy doing research on substances. So, what kind of things have you learned, Kimberly? All right. All right. So, morphine is more strong than any other. Well, heroin is an opiate, and it's stronger than morphine. It's like twice as strong as morphine. And fentanyl is an opiate. It's a synthetic opiate, and it is at least 50 times stronger than morphine. So here's what Google says about kratom. It's a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. Its leaves contain active compounds, primarily nitrogen. Okay. In low doses, it can act as a stimulant, increasing energy, alertness, and heart rate. High doses can have opioid like effects, including relaxation, pain relief, and sedation. It is often used for self treatment for chronic pain, opioid use disorder, and withdrawal symptoms. mood enhancement and relaxation, and increased energy and focus. So, wow, that's interesting. I I, I just wanted to give a reasonable description of it. Karma says these chemicals act on opioid receptors in the brain, producing effects similar to both stimulants and opioids, depending on the dose. Yeah, that too. So we have been here over 80 minutes. So it is getting close to time to wrap things up. Haven't seen Brenda today. That's a shame. But we saw Karma for sure. Yeah, that's cool because Karma hadn't been along in a while, and saw uh, Brianna and who else did we see? Kimberly and Brad. Brad's up late again. That's awesome. So I appreciate seeing all you guys. So our next story is going to be a fentanyl poisoning story. And after that, there'll be another cannabis induced psychosis story, or vice versa. Where it is right now, we have two stories that are close to finished and ready to publish. And so it's probably going to be the cannabis or the fentanyl story first. Kimberly says, me and my son have saved our friend's life when he overdosed on heroin and caused to have seizures. Thank you, Kimberly. I am very, very grateful for you guys, for all you guys that are part of this live event. Not not just the ones that are in the chat, anyone who's watching, anyone who is learning something to take away. Karma, you may be right about Kratom, but there's also a Kratom. The thing that I usually hear about Kratom is in the context of managing withdrawal. So there are other fentanyl substitutes on the horizon, which are going to be which are going to be worse than fentanyl, more potent. With some of them, naloxone doesn't work. So anyway, it is about time to wrap it up, folks. So I want to thank you all again for being here. We will probably be back on Friday or Saturday with a news story. We have the fentanyl story and the cannabis story. Sorry, that's my boss again. So the fentanyl story and the cannabis story that are so close. We are gonna wrap things up. So, and always when we wrap things up, I like to remind everyone that you're always welcome to reach out to us. You can reach out by email or find me on Facebook or send me a message through the channel in the community section. Just put a message in with one of my posts in the community section. I'm most likely to be able to respond to those. And the messages in the community section uh, get a little more attention. Anyway, Heather, Shaky Beans, good to see you. Glad you're here. And Karma and Brianna and Brad and Carla, assuming you're still here. I know Brad's probably wanting to turn in. Or it could be he's having breakfast right now because that's what old folks do. So anyway, thank you all again. Here's our contact information. You can reach us by email at at texas-pictures.com. And we're also on Facebook. You can find me by my name, Glenn Muse, and you can find our company, Texas Pictures, both with our own pages on Facebook. We're on TikTok, and there's our website, texas-pictures.com. And on our website, you'll find information about how to share your story, about how to order Texas Pictures merchandise that includes fentanyl awareness merchandise. And we are probably going to develop some cannabis awareness merchandise as well. On the website, you can also learn about us, and there's a mailing address and phone number and all that cool stuff. So thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you again next time. Good night.